Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Acupuncture's My Life. Now, in this episode, I want to jump back into my discussion on age-related diseases in which we can avoid, okay? And we can avoid these by simply seeing a physician on an annual basis for regular annual checkups and making regular wellness visits to an acupuncturist. Now, I've gotten a lot of feedback on the last episode. Many individuals were surprised that in having high blood pressure or breast cancer or even age-related macular degeneration, they can benefit from acupuncture. Many individuals were surprised. There are so many diseases and disorders whereby seeing an acupuncturist can change your life. And these diseases and disorders, of course, in which many individuals are suffering from, they're unaware that they can benefit from acupuncture. And this is why you have the Acupuncture's My Life podcast. Because many individuals feel that acupuncture is just for pain. Oh, I'm feeling pain. Yeah, it works great for pain. But it helps with so many other disorders out there that many individuals are unaware of. And I'm here to inform you on a regular basis various reasons as to why you should see an acupuncturist. Because you want to live a longer and happier lifestyle. But there are other diseases as we age in which we can attempt to avoid by simply seeing an acupuncturist for regular wellness visits. Another is atherosclerosis. And for those that do not know what that is, it's basically when your arteries begin to harden. And when that happens, it creates a serious health risk. And it's more so prevalent in men over the age of, I would say, 46, and women over the age of about 54-ish, somewhere around there. And the common risk factors of atherosclerosis is usually like being overweight, seeing an acupuncturist, smoking, seeing an acupuncturist. Because believe it or not, there are certain acupuncture points on the body that you can utilize acupressure with to help quit smoking. And other risk factors include, of course, lack of physical activity, high blood pressure, which I discussed in the last episode, seeing an acupuncturist, diabetes, seeing an acupuncturist, unhealthy cholesterol levels, seeing an acupuncturist. See, if you suffer from, let's say, atherosclerosis, you can feel or experience sudden bouts of headaches, confusion, paralysis, weakness, loss of consciousness, trouble speaking, and more. And so many individuals are unaware globally how serious this condition can be. And you don't want to experience this. I mean, think about it. You just, all of a sudden, you're paralyzed. You have trouble speaking. You lose consciousness. Which is better? Seeing acupuncturists for regular wellness visits, or what I've just stated? Take a moment and just let that sink in for a second. Now, another age-related disease you can potentially avoid is adult onset diabetes, which is basically type 2 diabetes. And you normally see this in individuals over the age of 40. A lot of this has to do with the global obesity crisis in which we're faced with today. And so many individuals are becoming diabetic, more and more at an alarming number around the world, where the best thing to do is to see an acupuncturist. And so many individuals are understanding that, and they're doing that. I mean, I have these virtual sessions with my global colleagues, and they're noticing the uptick in patients who are diabetic, and they're coming in to see them, which is great. That's awesome. But what's becoming more and more concerning is the increased number of young individuals that are developing this condition that was once seen as adults over the age of 40 experiencing. You know, and some of the symptoms that accompany this is like increased hunger, extreme tiredness, loss of muscle mass, excessive thirst. And if you're experiencing some of these symptoms and you have not been diagnosed with diabetes or haven't been checked for it, see a physician to get yourself checked out. Now you see, an acupuncturist understands that diabetes can be due to improper diet. Let's say eating too much in the way of greasy, sweet, rich foods, and also alcohol. Why? Because greasy foods, sweet foods, alcohol can disrupt the functions of, guess what? I know you guys know what I'm going to say. Bingo. Spleen and stomach. That middle jiao. And you see, once the functions of the spleen and stomach become impaired, your digestive functions have been impaired, and it's going to lead to food stagnation, which ultimately generates heat. And because heat tends to dry things out, it now begins to injure a person's yin and their fluid. Okay? And this is the fluids within the body. Now, another cause of diabetes can be due to, as understood by an acupuncturist, emotional stress. And I speak of this on Acupuncture's My Life TV, which is streaming on Roku TV, a lot. Chronic mental and emotional disorders can lead to a myriad of health problems. So if you're not watching it on Roku TV, you can watch it on the internet at acupuncturesmylife.tv. But emotional stress can play a big part, because long-term chronic stress can disturb the flow of qi in the body, and it can cause qi to stagnate. Therefore, again, creating a lot of internal heat, consuming the yin as well as the body fluids of the lungs and the stomach. Another contributing factor to diabetes can be due to overexertion. Because when you overexert yourself physically, like, you begin to deplete your essence as well as your yin. And when you have a yin deficient constitution, you add to that, let's say, sexual activity, forget about it. Now, yin deficiency with extreme internal heat tends to consume lung and stomach yin as well as fluid, and therefore causing the kidneys, the lung, and the stomach yin to give off symptoms that a a diabetic would experience. And see, an acupuncturist would pick these things up right away. Because basic patterns of diabetes to an acupuncturist can be, let's say, upper jiao, which consists primarily of the lung and heart. Deficiency where there's lung heat that injures body fluids in the chest. You can have an excess pattern in the stomach, which represents the middle jiao. Or deficiency patterns of the kidneys, which is in the lower jiao. You can have kidney yin deficiency or deficiency of both yin and yang. But let's say, take for instance, the upper jiao's been affected, where there's the lungs that's in the upper jiao. You know, some of the symptoms would be irritability. You'd find yourself drinking a lot. Your mouth is always dry, and so is your tongue. And then there's symptoms, one of the 3 P's, which is polyuria. You also have polydipsia and polyphagia. Polyuria is when there's excess urine. Polydipsia, you're drinking a lot. Polyphagia, you always want to eat. You're hungry a lot. But now when the upper jiao is affected and there's lung heat, which injures the fluids, you want to drink a lot. And you'll gradually develop emaciation. Now, when the middle jiao is affected, there's excess stomach heat. Now, we're still talking about diabetes here. And you would have this propensity to hunger. And there's your polyphagia of the 3 P's. And then now you have these dry stools that's like hard to expel. Now, when diabetes affects the lower jiao, you can present with kidney yin deficiency, where here's another of the 3 P's, and this is polyuria, because you're now, I'm trying to think of it. Yeah, it's polyuria with turbid, cloudy, or sweet smelling urine. That's usually when you're suffering from kidney yin deficiency as a result of diabetes. And an acupuncturist would nourish the yin of the kidneys in this case. But then now the lower jiao can also experience deficiency of both yin and yang. And again, there's polyuria with turbid and cloudy urine. And now you're urinating more than you're actually drinking. Okay? And then you'd also experience an intolerance for cold and cold limbs. But if you've ever been diagnosed with diabetes, see an acupuncturist. It's the best thing to do. Another age-related disorder that you can avoid by simply seeing an acupuncturist for regular wellness visits is heart disease. And I've said this many times. Cardiovascular diseases are the leading cause of death on this planet. This is a global issue. And yes, it's more common in people over 45. And studies do show men are usually more than likely to develop heart disease than women. But there are other risk factors that can include, again, smoking, drinking a lot of alcohol, terrible diet. And the condition can cause like strokes and heart failure, heart attacks, angina. And it's important that you're aware of this. And you see an acupuncturist for regular wellness visits. Because why? Because acupuncturist understands that health is wealth. Health is wealth. The wealth is not in an app on your phone. It's not in an investment account or the bank or in a safe. It's not in your pocket. It's not in your wallet or your purse. Okay? It's not under the mattress, nor is it under a doghouse in the backyard. And it's not in a shoebox in the closet. The wealth is in you. And And it's important that you understand this. Okay? Now, I wouldn't say this is age-related to that extent, but disease that you could potentially avoid as you're aging is influenza, the flu. But basically, the range on that relative to age groups is huge. It's really wide, but it holds a higher risk for individuals over the age of 50. Because individuals over the age of 50 are more likely to suffer much more in the way of serious complications as a result of influenza. And there are many individuals who come down with this external pathogen and they'll see an acupuncturist, because to an acupuncturist, the flu is caused by, epidemic pathogenic influences that can present with severe symptoms. So an acupuncturist will look to disperse the exterior pathogen through the utilization of herbs and acupuncture to clear out the heat and focus on relieving toxicity when it's in its initial stage of the disease. And these herbal formulas can be modified according to or relative to accompanying pathogenic factors. So, if the flu as a pathogenic influence tends to affect the interior of the body, an acupuncturist should focus on clearing heat and relieving toxicity, and also disperse lung qi, clear heat from the heart, and open up the orifices. As, the basic ways in approaching the patterns that accompany influenza. Because, there are several patterns that can be diagnosed by an acupuncturist. When it comes to the flu, one could be like this wind heat, because wind carries a lot of diseases. But in the form of heat, it can attack the protective chi and weaken it. Because pathogenic heat can affect the protective chi, and depending on the strength of your constitution, and if you've been seeing an acupuncturist for regular wellness visits, it won't be able to hang around long. Some people experience heat accumulation in the lungs. Sometimes the heat will lodge in the pericardium. This is why I say see an acupuncturist for regular wellness visits. So many ways in which you can benefit from acupuncture. But another age-related disease you can attempt to avoid by seeing an acupuncturist regularly is bowel cancer, colon cancer. That's another. Now you see, when it comes to colorectal cancer, somewhere in the ballpark of 90 to 95% of individuals diagnosed with bowel cancer tend to be over the age of 60. And some say in the world of biomedicine that there isn't a sole cause for this illness. There are existing risk factors that include, let's say, lack of exercise, poor diet, being overweight, drinking too much alcohol, smoking. Think about it. If you listen to Acupuncture's My Life podcast regularly, I speak of diet, exercise, obesity, alcohol, and sometimes smoking. All right? So that should give you food for thought that, changes need to be made. And you need to see an acupuncturist. Now, some say a family history of bowel cancer plays a part, or it puts you at a higher risk. To me, the jury is still out on that. But bowel cancer, or should I say colorectal cancer, is just another disorder that you'd want to avoid as you age. And again, seeing acupuncturists. Because the manifestations of colorectal cancer, it tends to grow slowly. And there's usually no obvious symptoms at an early stage. But let's say if you were to experience or present with cancer and the descending aspect of your colon, you would begin to notice alternating constipation. There will be frequent bowel movements that'll contain blood and bloody mucus. And you'd also experience abdominal pain. Now, if the cancer was in the sigmoid intestine and the rectum, you'd be likely to manifest with fresh blood or bloody mucus in the stool or after defecation. And it'll be like this dragging sensation in the anus as well. But now, if the cancer was in the ascending colon, you may only, let's say, present with this like lack of strength. There'll be, anemia, hard masses in the abdomen. And then there's intestinal obstruction, which occurs more frequently in cancer of the descending colon. Now I'm going back to that. Then cancer of the ascending colon. Then there would be fever and emaciation. These are common accompanying symptoms of colorectal cancer. Now, when the cancer tumors in the colon grow, they tend to invade the intestinal wall as well as the local lymph nodes before it metastasizes over to the liver. Okay, but basic causes of colon cancer to an acupuncturist is basically due to damp heat or toxins and stagnations that generally manifest or serve as manifestation of this disease. There would be spleen deficiency, kidney deficiency with an insufficiency of vital chi at the root of it all. And some of the external factors that can play into colorectal cancer can include, let's say, cold that settles in outside the intestines, and dietary irregularities such as too much in the way of, again, alcohol, which damages the spleen and stomach. And when the spleen and stomach becomes damaged, now the transportation and transformation of food essences will fail to circulate. And damp heat would generate internally, resulting in heat toxins that are basically pouring down into the large intestine. And this is how it's seen from the eyes of an acupuncturist. But guess what? That's relative to external factors. Now, some of the internal factors can be due to anxiety and depression that results in binding depression of liver chi. Again, watch Acupuncture's My Life TV on either Roku TV or on the internet at acupuncturesmylife.tv, because we speak of mental and emotional disorders serving as a cause for disease. In this case, cancer. Colorectal cancer. So when anxiety and depression it tends to bind and depress liver chi, now it begins to overwhelm the spleen and invade the stomach, and cause deficiency and weakness of the spleen and stomach. I speak so much on the importance of the middle jiao. Okay? My thing is, and the best thing to do, and I've said it a million times, is simply make acupuncture a part of your life. And your life will change. Because acupuncture is my life. What's yours?